What's up, sons? It's Blind Rod with Son of a Tech once again, and today I have the hash rates and overclocks and efficiency numbers for Kaspa. That algorithm is going to be heavy hash, and I have tested every single GPU in my farm, and we're going to get into the results right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Coastal Crypto. Coastal Crypto can be found at coastalcryptomining.com via the affiliate link down in the description below. They don't want to take up a lot of your time, and neither do I, because I want to get into the video. They are here to help miners find parts. If you're looking for ASICs or even GPUs or any other parts, be sure to check them out. Use promo code SOAT at checkout for 5% off any purchase on the website. Welcome back, everyone. So first things first, I'd like to go ahead and state that these are not fully tuned in. If you would like to adjust even further, of course, your power consumption settings, you should be able to get better efficiency numbers. Now, the way this is currently set up is you will be able to see what the top essentially hash rate is per card. However, we do have the efficiency numbers here too. And a couple other things to note is because heavy hash is basically core intensive, meaning the core clock matters more than the memory clock, it means that basically per GPU, even between one 3090 and a different 3090 or one 3070 and a different 3070, there will be differences, meaning it was important to also test every single type of GPU I had and then list that down for you guys as well. So this list is by no means complete. However, it is the best that I got for you right now. So first things first, which GPU is getting the most amount of hash rate out of everything in the farm? Well, that is actually going to be the RTX 3090, where we can get over 1 gigahash a second. Yes, that's 1,000 megahash a second on a single GPU. And you'll see here in a little bit that that does make it also pretty efficient. Now, to achieve these numbers on the RTX 3090, the important things that you're going to want to set is going to be the overclocks. Now, in this particular case, what I ended up going with was plus 150 megahertz on the core. And then on the memory, we used the Hive OS shell command NVIDIA-SMI-LMC 810 to lock the memory clock to 810 megahertz. This saves us on the power front, and I would highly recommend it. The GPU core temperature was 86 degrees Celsius, and the memory temperature was also 86 degrees Celsius during this particular test. Now, the second place for highest hash rate is the RTX 3080. Now, for the 3080, what we ended up with was a hash rate of 863 megahash a second. To obtain this, we actually had the exact same overclock settings that we had on the RTX 3090, meaning that we locked the memory down to 810 megahertz and overclocked the core by 150 megahertz. This ended up basically setting the GPU core temperature during testing to 84 degrees Celsius and the memory at 76 degrees Celsius. And this turned the power consumption in software to 273 watts. Finally, in third place was the GTX 2080 Ti. Now, the 2080 Ti ended up with a hash rate of 743 megahash a second, which is pretty impressive for a previous gen GPU. And those settings were a little bit different. You see, the only time you can clock the memory and manually force it to 810 megahertz is if the GPU is the RTX 30 series. So on the 20 series, the best we can do is underclock the memory. In this particular case, putting it at negative 2000 megahertz. Then we overclock the core to by a plus 180 megahertz. And this is how we got those numbers. The core temperature on this 2080 ended up being 84C, while the memory temperature was at 95C. Of course, we are in a hot climate, and that is probably one of my older GPUs. This one in particular was the EVGA Black Edition. So those are the top three, basically most highest hash rate that you can get on your Kaspa. The rest on the list, as you guys can see here, puts the 3070 Ti in 4th place, the 6900 XT in 5th place, and the RTX 3070 in 6th place, and the 3060 Ti in 7th place. And then we start to really dip down on RTX 3060 and below GPUs. But as you guys know, it's really about the efficiency. So when we take a look at efficiency, what are the highest rated GPUs here? And this is where things get interesting. Basically, if we take a look at the efficiency per watt here, so mega hash per watt, what we can see is the RTX A2000 takes the lead at 4.2 mega hash per watt, and that is pretty darn good. Now the A2000 in particular is going to be running at about 290 mega hash a second, but it's at 69 watts, which is pretty awesome, right? To obtain these numbers, we are able to, on the A series GPUs, set the NVIDIA-SMI-LMC to 810, meaning locking the memory to 810 megahertz. And the core clock was at plus 200 megahertz. So that is how we ended up with those numbers. In second place as most efficient in my particular test right now is the RTX 3090 at 4.1 mega hash a second per watt. And we already talked about the overclock settings for this one in particular, so you can check that out. Now, interestingly enough, we have the RX 6900 XT in 3rd place. Here's the problem with the 6900 XT in my testing. I was not able to get the core clock to go over 1400 megahertz on this particular GPU. And so it puts me in an awkward position of saying, yes, it looks very efficient, but we weren't actually able to push the card very far, because all we really ended up with in this particular case was 585 mega hash a second. And that was with the core clock at 1400 megahertz and the memory clock at 1000 megahertz. Not really clocked into where I want to be. I think if we got in there and redid the thermal paste on the core clock and got the core clock going above 1400 megahertz, we would see a much different result than we are particularly seeing right now. So that means I am going to give the honorable mention for 3rd place and actual 3rd place to the RX 6600 from AMD. This one in particular will do 329 mega hash a second at 90 watts, and that is pretty good efficiency. In particular, this will have a core clock of 2350 megahertz and a memory clock of 875 megahertz, resulting in 3.65 mega hash per watt. So there you go. Now, of course, not all cards are created equal. In all of these cases, what we ran into was essentially outliers even within these particular GPUs. So I want to make a few things clear. The A2000 was basically going to be a Founders Edition. There is no outside third-party manufacturer for that. And then on the 6600, what we had was the Sapphire model, and that had 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 clocked at, well, basically with the Hynix memory. Sorry, not clocked at. We already talked about that. So where that is with the Hynix memory. But we do have more to talk about here, and I think it's super important. So out of the most efficient GPUs, we have the RTX 3090. And if we take a look at each individual GPU out of the 3090s I tested, in first place we have the Zotac Amp Core Edition, and that had the GDDR6X memory. In second place we had the Zotac Trinity GPU. In third place we had the NVIDIA Founders Edition GPU. And in fourth place, we had the EVGA for the Win 3 Ultra. And then fifth, we had the MSI Supreme. And then sixth, we had the PNY. And that covers all of our RTX 3090 GPUs. And I think it's important to state which ones basically get you clocked at where. And so then from there, if we went ahead and took a look at the RTX 3080s, we had basically the Gigabyte Aorus model taking the lead at 3.16 mega hash per watt, while the ASUS Strix overclock only did 2.6 mega hash a second per watt. If we take a look at the RTX 3070s, what we see is the Gigabyte Gaming taking first place at 3.5 mega hash a second per watt, with the EVGA XC3 at 2.8 mega hash a second per watt, and the EVGA Black at 2.8 mega hash a second per watt. And then we have the RTX 3060s, where the MSI Gaming X edition takes the lead over the PNY with 2.8 mega hash a second per watt. And then finally on the GTX 1063 gigabyte models, the EVGA 3 gigabyte model takes first with 2.5 mega hash a second per watt. The MSI takes second with the 2.35 mega hash a second per watt, and the EVGA with the Hynix memory, which appears to be the key differential here in this particular case, was at 2.1 mega hash a second per watt, meaning that the EVGA with the Samsung memory 3 gigabytes seems to do a little bit better with efficiency here, and that is probably just due to the lower power consumption of the Samsung. That's the best I can tell as far as that goes. So I have a complete chart down in the description below for you guys to check out over on Google Sheets. You can go over there and check it out and basically get all of my overclocks and everything that is going on there. I hope you found this video helpful, and I am looking at doing one for Ergo as well. So if you guys are interested in a video like this for Ergo, please let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure you hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bell, and share it out so that I am aware that you enjoy this type of content. I will see you next Tuesday. For additional content that also goes into more opinionated pieces surrounding the politics around crypto, make sure you check out sonofatech.locals.com. There you can become a member for free, or even choose to support for basically additional content at $5 a month. It's helping me stay alive through the crypto winter.